You are welcome again to yet another episode of HN What's Your Say? The longest online docuseries where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. Immediately after the New York verdict hearing that saw R. Kelly falsely determined guilty for all 10 counts by Judge Ann Donnelly and her team of corrupted jurors, many reporters took to the media and announced the breaking news, and the same did occur after the sentencing, where the same judge issued a 30-year sentence, one that exceeded what some criminals who have killed have received in the past. This 30-year sentence was also 5 years in excess of what the already entitled government prosecution had asked for. Watching some of these reports revealed a pattern of human behavior that will justify rumors simply because the government says so. And this is a common problem with the way of thinking among mankind. We tend to think whatever the government puts forward has to be the truth, but news flash, it ain't always the case. The government, if not in all cases, is most of the time wrong, but because there are not so many people that are able to look right through such court rulings, they tend to pass unchallenged. The report that caught my attention was that by a reporter on CBC News who was so eager to mention how the evidence presented during the trial was so much and so disturbing, but then right in the middle of her statement, she remembered this wasn't evidence at all but simply hearsay, which she then referred to as testimony. This is the major problem we have identified with the entire R. Kelly trial process. We understand that in certain circumstances, witness testimony can be used to symbolize evidence in a case but cannot be conclusive, especially when complicated charges such as Mann Act violation and RICO are involved. Such charges require thorough investigation to determine that the structures required to assemble such illegal operations actually did exist, and this is the evidence required to prove the defendant did commit such crimes. You cannot determine RICO just because someone testified in court and made you believe R. Kelly was heading an enterprise whose members were even missing in the courtroom. Because there was indeed no enterprise, the accused was R. Kelly alone and no one else. Unless the government suggests the rest of the enterprise was above the law, and only R. Kelly could be punished. There was no way the courts could have reached a verdict on such charges basing on simple witness testimony, and without conducting a proper investigations to bring sufficient evidence to the table. Worse still, the witnesses whose testimonies were used as basis to convict R. Kelly and issue a 30-year sentence were not credible enough to give the court sufficient reason to believe their testimonies, and to use them as basis to make a final decision on the case. The principal witness herself, Azriel Clary, is popular for making contradicting statements about the case, defending Robert in some scenarios and accusing him in other instances. She was also clear about her parents' organized plot to extort R. Kelly through blackmail, and how they asked her to lie to him that she was 18 and not 17 when she first met him. Lisa Van Allen, who also testified against R. Kelly and whose testimony R. Kelly was sentenced against, was also later found to have been 18 and not 17 when she met him. But surprisingly, it is still testimonies from such non-credible witnesses that were used to determine R. Kelly as guilty, and to sentence him to a whole 30 years of unfair incarceration. Also important to note, if Azriel Clary had to lie to R. Kelly that she was 18 and not 17 when they first met, it means Robert was never out there looking for underage girls to be with. It actually exonerates the idea that he was out there to entice young girls like the government wants us to believe. Instead, it proves that it is the parents of these women that are guilty of enticing R. Kelly and their daughters to be together, in pretense that they were of age, knowing well what their real respective ages were. While R. Kelly may not have known exactly when these women were born, their parents knew this and should have been the first layer of protection for their own children if they were children anyway. By the time a parent hands their daughter to an adult man and asks them to lie to him they are 18, how was he to think otherwise? I am not sure anyone would argue with a parent if they said their physically well-developed son or daughter was 18. I wouldn't either, because the parents always know better. But it is on the basis of these lying parents and their lovely daughters' testimonies that R. Kelly was judged and sentenced. How ironic. If anyone was still doubting whether R. Kelly was innocent, all you have to do is listen to the news reports on YouTube and other sources, and you will realize that no one talks about disturbing physical evidence but guesswork and hearsay. They all talk about disturbing testimonies, which is not anywhere different from he say she say. And like we just mentioned, These women did not qualify in any way to have their testimonies determined to be credible evidence against which the courts could make a ruling. According to Samantha, I had never seen a person receive a 30-year sentence for mere rumors told about him. This was the first time, and I hope it will be the last. There is a way the courts were quick to judge R. Kelly with no tangible evidence presented by the government, and this is evidence for prejudice. There is need to re-examine this matter to detect any prejudicial tendencies and come to a more meaningful conclusion. I want to believe this is what the appeal is going to be largely about. It's time to flush out any hoodwinkers and grant the R&B king the justice he deserves. According to Robin McQueen, I am glad that the truth about this case keeps coming out more and more each day. This goes to show how people working for any part of the government or the state can be corrupt. It's rather disturbing to learn that many people who have done this to R. Kelly were only seeking their 15 minutes of fame without caring who gets hurt in the process. For some people, it's all about making money off of someone else's misfortunes, and making biased reports just to make people think R. Kelly is a very bad man he isn't. Meanwhile, as we fight for R. Kelly's well-deserved freedom, the American people need to know that this is not a problem for him alone, but for every single one of us that is bound to be treated unfairly, or that has someone they love in prison for all the wrong reasons. We are not necessarily fighting for R. Kelly, we are fighting against injustice. We are not fighting only for R. Kelly but for every black man out there who wakes up to toil for survival and hopes to achieve half of their dreams, but is hindered by the system for its discriminatory tendencies and intolerance for success only when it exists among us. Write your letter today to the Department of Justice and call your governor to demand that the BOP issue be investigated to the core and the report made public. It is our right to know what happened. If you wish to take part in a live interview on this channel discussing any of these topics, let us know by emailing us on sashahnnewsroom@gmail.com for scheduling. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say? To keep updated whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. Also remember to hit the bell icon and enable notifications. And feel free to share your opinions with us in the comment section below, and let us know if you would like us to publish your views in our next release. We value all our subscribers' opinions.